Aurora turned back to Lucas, her eyes glowing as if she were seeing a part of him that he hadn't recognized yet. Your mission is to help other souls, to lead them out of this place and into the light. Each soul you help will bring you closer to the path you must walk, to the things you need to understand. Only when you complete this task, when you help enough souls caught between these worlds, will you be able to continue your journey. You will then be able to choose whether to return to life or become a part of this world, like me, as a guide. Lucas looked at Aurora, his mind still spinning, but a strange feeling began to stir within him. He didn't know if he had the strength to fulfill this mission, but he understood that this was his one chance to discover the true purpose of his existence, even if it meant facing challenges he had never imagined. Aurora handed Lucas a glowing compass, its light softly illuminating his hand. This compass is not just a tool to guide you, Lucas. It will show you the way to those souls trapped between the world of the living and the departure, those like you who are not yet ready to leave, she explained, her voice gentle but carrying an underlying strength. Lucas looked at the compass, feeling a powerful pull emanating from within it, as if the compass knew exactly where he needed to go. At the same time, its light grew brighter, casting a beam that illuminated part of the field ahead. Start there, Aurora pointed. That's where you'll find your first souls. Following the compass's light, Lucas felt an irresistible urge to move forward. The more he walked, the environment around him began to change, gradually growing darker and more foreboding. He encountered Sebastian, a soul imprisoned by painful memories. Sebastian stood in a desolate place, his eyes empty, as if he were drowning in an endless sorrow. Lucas approached and asked, "Sebastian, can I help you?" Sebastian looked at Lucas, his eyes full of anguish. "I can't escape my memories. The mistakes I've made, they haunt me endlessly," he rasped. Lucas felt the deep sorrow in his words and knew he had to help him free himself from his past. Through heartfelt conversations, Lucas helped Sebastian forgive himself and let go of the painful memories, allowing him to step out of the darkness and move toward the light. Continuing his journey, Lucas met Clara, a young girl who was always searching for her family. Clara appeared fragile and frightened, her eyes constantly scanning the surroundings as though she were searching for something. "What are you looking for, Clara?" Lucas asked. The girl looked at Lucas, her eyes full of hope but tinged with despair. "I miss my family. I don't know where they are. I can't feel them anymore," Clara whispered. Lucas realized that Clara wasn't just searching for her family, but for comfort and protection. He helped Clara recall the happy memories of her family, bringing back the love and protection they had given her. With Lucas's help, Clara found peace and was eventually reunited with her loved ones. With each soul he helped, Lucas began to notice something strange. Every soul he saved brought him closer to the opportunity of returning to his life. Each act of helping felt like a step forward in his journey, and the compass seemed to lead him to an inevitable conclusion. However, throughout his journey, Lucas did not only encounter souls longing for redemption. He realized that each step he took was not just a journey for the restless spirits seeking release, but also a place where he had to face darker, more terrifying things. One day, as he was heading toward an abandoned house, where everything seemed forgotten by time, a sudden shift occurred in the atmosphere. The air around him grew dense and cold, as if it was breathing out the frozen breaths of something deadly. An eerie silence enveloped the area, with no sound except for his footsteps and the faint breeze passing by. That very moment, the compass in Lucas's hand began to flicker, as if signaling an impending danger. The light from the compass flickered erratically, its colors shifting, like a disturbance in the fabric of time and space. Everything around him seemed to compress into a dense fog, blurring his vision and making the world feel distorted. Then, from within that fog, a massive shadow appeared, slowly moving toward him, carrying with it a sense of heaviness and looming menace that was palpable. Each step it took reverberated in the space around him, filling the air with an oppressive tension that made Lucas feel trapped in a nightmare. This entity was unlike any spirit Lucas had encountered on his journey. It had no specific form, only a dark, ominous shadow that moved vaguely, as if it didn't belong to this world. The twisting dark patches seemed to be alive, swirling like a haunting creature. Morith, as it later introduced itself, was a being of darkness, specializing in imprisoning souls by awakening deep fear and despair within them. Its movements were smooth, yet echoed like whispers of the end, creating a feeling that it was invading Lucas's mind, overwhelming all his emotions and thoughts. Morath spoke, its voice gravelly, each word a sharp blade penetrating Lucas's mind. "Lucas," it began, its tone thick with threat, "I know you're not ready to leave. But if you stay here, in this world, you can gain unlimited power." The words echoed with an eerie temptation. "Souls like you have the ability to grasp powers you've never even dared to dream of. No more limits, no more pain, only strength. Let me guide you." Lucas felt a shiver run down his spine at hearing these words. Each of Moratha's words cut deep into his psyche, stirring dark and uncertain thoughts within him. Promises of infinite power, no more suffering, no more fear. It was an overwhelming temptation that he couldn't ignore. A part of him longed to reach for that power, to escape the worries and pain he had faced in his life. But another part of him, one filled with fear and doubt, warned him that the price of this power would be the loss of himself, the very essence of who he was. Morath advanced, each step it took echoed eerily in the quiet space, and the coldness seemed to wrap itself tighter around Lucas. He could feel the chill from this dark entity, as if it were draining all the life and vitality from him. "You can have it all, Lucas," Moratha's voice came again, deep and seductive. "No more worries about the future, no more fear of leaving life behind. Just accept staying here." Each of Moratha's words felt like an invitation to an abyss, a place of power, but also a place where one could lose their soul. Lucas stood between the ultimate temptation of Morath and the responsibility he felt for the souls pleading for help. Each word from Morath echoed like a sweet melody, each sentence drawing his mind into a world of power, where he wouldn't have to worry about the departure from life, where he could live in the dominance of his own will. Those empty promises were like a sweet drug, inviting him to abandon all his fears, anxieties, and the responsibilities he bore. But the more he listened to those promises, the more he felt an emptiness inside, an inexplicable urge reminding him that power and immortality could not replace the true value of life. As Morath moved closer, its shadow seemed to devour everything around them. Its glowing red eyes cast an eerie light, shining directly into Lucas' mind. Morath sighed, its deep voice filled with allure, as if pulling him into an endless abyss. "Why continue fighting, Lucas? Why risk it all for these souls? They are just ghosts, meaningless, and will only drag you down. Stay here with me. Together, you and I could rule this world. We will never depart, never fear. This world will bow before us." Lucas felt as though every force of darkness was trying to overpower him, as if the entire universe were aligning to make him weak and fall. The faint lights from his compass slowly faded, and a dark sensation enveloped him, like a wave of blackness consuming his thoughts. Piece by piece, it took away his hope, devouring every last bit of light in him. But in that moment, a familiar figure appeared, cutting through the darkness like a bright star. Aurora, the one who had guided him through this treacherous journey, stood at a distance, her compass light illuminating the space around them, banishing the darkness like a sturdy shield. She looked at Lucas, her eyes full of hope and resolve, as if giving him strength and belief. "Lucas, don't let the darkness take you," Aurora spoke softly yet powerfully, her voice a whisper into his soul. "You are not a lost spirit. You are alive, and your life means more than any power Morath could offer. The souls you save will help you find yourself again. They are part of you, the reason for you to continue fighting. Remember why you began this journey." Lucas felt a surge of faith ignite inside him. Aurora's words were like a flame lighting up his heart. He remembered everything he had gone through, the souls like Clara and Sebastian that he had helped. They deserved freedom, and he couldn't let Morath, a creature of darkness, stop him from doing what was right. That was why he had to fight, no matter what the cost. He couldn't let Morath win. He couldn't let fear and despair defeat the light within him. With renewed determination, Lucas moved toward Morath, a flame burning brightly in his heart, strong and unyielding. Aurora stood beside him, her compass glowing powerfully, guiding him forward. The light from her compass shone like a beacon of hope in the dark night, lighting the path ahead. A fierce battle began. Morith countered with dark, malicious attacks, sending waves of shadow to engulf the space, but Lucas, with Aurora's help and his belief in the value of life, fought back fiercely. The waves of light from the compass became like mighty weapons, shielding him from every blow. Each strike was powerful, each step forced Morith to retreat further. Lucas felt the strength rise from within, as if every soul he had saved was lending their power to him in that moment. The battle wasn't just a fight of strength, but a spiritual war, between faith and despair, between light and darkness. Lucas knew that no matter how powerful the darkness, he would never give up. He fought not just to save himself but to save the souls that called to him from distant places. After defeating Morith, Lucas felt an unusual peace envelop him. Everything around him seemed to return to its rightful order, with the noise, the darkness, and the fear that Morith had spread now gone. It was as if the storm had passed and calm had settled over everything. Lucas looked around, feeling as though he had just woken up from a long, nightmare-filled dream, and now it was time to face reality. He felt a lightness in his soul, but also a deep sense of emotion, as if all the burdens of his life had been lifted. Aurora stood by his side, her compass glowing brightly, casting light across the space around them. She smiled, her eyes filled with both joy and respect. "Lucas," she spoke gently, yet her voice held a certain strength, "you have completed your mission. You saved these souls and defeated the darkness. Now, you have a choice. You can return to your life, where your family and loved ones are waiting for you, or you can stay here and become a guide like me, helping other lost souls." Lucas gazed into Aurora's eyes, feeling the sincerity in every word she spoke. He thought about his family, the people he loved, and especially Elena, his best friend. They had always been his motivation to overcome every challenge. But as he looked ahead, he also understood that life was not just about himself but about those around him. When Aurora gave him the power to decide, a wave of emotions surged within Lucas, pulling him into an ongoing inner battle. Every thought, every image from the past crashed against his mind like relentless waves. He remembered the precious moments spent with his family, those days as a child in the loving embrace of his parents, the times he and Elena sat together under the moonlight, whispering stories that never grew old. Every hand he held, every smile shared, were irreplaceable moments he didn't want to let slip away, moments he couldn't afford to let fade into nothingness. He thought about the dreams unfulfilled, the promises left unkept, and all the things he had lost when he fell into this state. Life was fleeting, and each moment passed like a soft breeze, and he realized he had wasted so much time chasing after something distant, overlooking the true values he had once held. The price of sacrifice was too high, and he understood now that, while the task Aurora gave him was important, family and the people he loved were the most valuable things of all. "I choose to return," Lucas said, his voice steady, no longer uncertain. Each word he spoke was a firm affirmation of his decision. "Even though your work is important, I have a family, people I love, and I want to live for them. Come back and love them again." His words were filled with sincerity, as though he had finally found what he had been searching for all along, a reason to live, to give, and to love. Aurora nodded, her face gentle and full of understanding, as if she had known this decision all along. She did not seem surprised or disappointed. In fact, it seemed as though she had predicted that Lucas would choose this path. She reached out her hand, and the compass in her grasp began to glow. The light from it was bright, dazzling, as though it carried some mysterious power. "Then, you have chosen your path. Remember, life is a precious gift, and you will always carry within you the mission to help others. Every soul you save will give you strength to live and to love," she said, her voice warm and comforting, like a message from a close friend. As Aurora's words echoed in his mind, Lucas felt her presence slowly fade, like a mist dissolving into the air. He felt his body gently lift, as if carried by the wind, and a warm sensation spread through him. Everything around him began to dissolve, as if space and time no longer existed. In that fleeting moment, he felt the gentle warmth of the light, pure and comforting, like the peace he had always longed for in his moments of despair. With a feeling as if he were being guided back home, Lucas woke up, opening his eyes to the stillness of a world that had never felt so familiar. He didn't know where he was, but he felt a sense of tranquility, a return to the reality he had lost. And in that moment, he knew he had made the right choice, because he had returned to the people he loved, to the dreams and hopes he had never abandoned. Lucas slowly opened his eyes. The first sensation that overtook his body was the aching pain from his wounds. Every movement felt like thousands of sharp needles piercing his skin, but strangely, these pains also reminded him that he was still alive. Every breath, every movement, no matter how painful, reminded him that he existed, that he had not stayed where he thought he had reached the boundary of oblivion. It felt as if he were sinking into a dense fog, with the sounds and images around him becoming dim and unclear. Everything seemed like it was happening in a dream that he couldn't escape. As he tried to move, the pain immediately overtook his body, but this only made him more certain of his existence. He could feel every twinge from the wounds on his body, wounds he once thought he would never have the chance to feel again. This sensation was a powerful awakening, proof that he had crossed the fragile line between life and the unknown. He lay there, in the cold hospital room, but the feeling of life still burned intensely within him, stronger than ever. It felt like a warm light spreading through his heart, dispelling the haze of pain, and he knew that he had come back. Gradually, as the fog in his mind began to lift, familiar images began to appear clearly. Elena, the one he loved most, was sitting beside his hospital bed. Her eyes were filled with concern, but also with hope, and her soft hands gently held his, as though she wanted to transfer life to him through each fingertip. The warmth from her made him feel as though he had found a peaceful place in the storm of emotions. His parents stood nearby, their eyes red from worry, but when they saw him awake, relief and immense happiness appeared on their faces. They were still there, despite the many challenges they'd been through, still his steadfast support. Lucas felt the gazes of everyone around him, the warmth and love from his loved ones flowing to him, and he felt something truly magical and sacred. It was a feeling he had never experienced before: the connection, the love, and the presence of those most important to him. Even though his body still ached with the severe wounds, his soul was filled with strength, as if he had been reborn. He realized that life, no matter how brief or fragile, was a priceless gift he had never truly appreciated before. In that moment, memories of his strange journey between two worlds resurfaced. He remembered Aurora, who had guided him through the most dangerous moments, the souls he had saved, and the fierce battle with Morith, the powerful enemy who had nearly taken his life. Every image, every emotion, seemed like pieces of a complete picture about a journey full of challenges but also full of meaning. All of these experiences made him realize that, no matter how short or fragile this life might be, it was an amazing gift. And now, he had a second chance to live, to love, and to help others. Lucas not only realized the value of life but also understood that his mission was far from over. Although the story of the souls he saved might never be fully believed, what mattered was that he knew that every time he helped someone, he made the world a better place. Even when he felt like he was fighting alone, with no one believing in what he had gone through, he knew that the good things he did would make a difference. Whether anyone believed his story or not, Lucas would continue to do good because that was how he wanted to live the rest of his life. Now, with this new opportunity, Lucas didn't just feel like a survivor, he felt like someone born again. The souls he had saved, the people he had helped, were still somewhere in his heart, watching over him and giving him strength. He wouldn't give up, and he wouldn't let the challenges ahead make him falter. Because life, no matter how painful or difficult, always has a purpose, and Lucas would spend the rest of his life living fully with that purpose. Lucas would never forget Aurora, the devoted guide who helped him discover the strength within himself, or Sebastian and Clara, the souls he encountered and helped during that strange journey. Whenever he remembered them, their images would appear vividly in his mind, as if they were still there, close by and present in every thought, every feeling he had. Aurora, with her gentle light and eyes full of comfort, was like a lantern shining in the dark. Every time he thought of her, Lucas felt as though he was enveloped in an endless wave of peace. Her voice, soft yet full of power, echoed in his head like a lullaby, rekindling the faith he had long forgotten. The sensation of her guiding him through those difficult and uncertain moments still lived on in him. Aurora was not only a guide, but a symbol of resilience, a source of light that would never fade, even in the darkest times of life. Sebastian, the man who had struggled with the hauntings of his past, had now found peace. At first, he was a soul filled with pain and fear, living in the shadows of past mistakes, but with Aurora's help and Lucas' encouragement, he learned to forgive himself. The memories of his battles with guilt, of sleepless nights full of sorrow, gradually gave way to tranquility. Lucas could never forget the first look in Sebastian's eyes when he finally let go of the burden on his soul. It was a look of relief, a light in his eyes, as though a large dark cloud had dissipated, leaving behind a clear sky. And Clara, the sweet little girl with the bright smile, though she had lost her family, had now found peace. Clara's story was one of the memories Lucas held close to his heart. Despite being cut off from the physical world, she possessed a strange strength, a resilience that made anyone who encountered her feel the love for life, even though loss had been a large part of her existence. Remembering Clara's bright smile, her eyes sparkling like stars in the night, Lucas understood that her peace did not come from erasing the sorrow, but from acceptance and the unconditional love she gave to everything around her. The memories of them lived on in Lucas's heart, like small lights in the dark night, never fading. Even though he had returned to life, those souls still followed him, reminding him of his special journey. Whenever he felt lost, whenever life seemed too difficult, Lucas only needed to look at the old compass, now an invaluable keepsake. The compass, once a tool to guide him through the hazy world between life and departure, had now become a symbol of hope and faith in his ability to overcome any challenge. Each time the light from the compass shone in the darkness of a room or in the dark moments of life, Lucas felt as if he were being given strength, as though Aurora and the souls were still there, watching over him. That faint but warm light was a reminder that in every dark moment, there would always be a small beam of light guiding him forward. He understood that even though the road ahead might be filled with trials, hardships, and pain, hope would always exist. Sometimes, it was simply a small light in the deep darkness, but enough to guide him to keep going, never giving up. Lucas knew that his old friends Aurora, Sebastian, and Clara would always be by his side, whether in this world or somewhere else, and they would always provide strength whenever he felt weak. Along with the compass, those souls would be his greatest source of encouragement in life, helping him find peace and strength even in the darkest of moments. Thank you for taking the time to watch this meaningful story. We hope that the character's journey in the video has brought you deep reflections on life, passing, and things we may not fully understand. If you feel that this story has inspired you or touched your heart, please leave a comment and share your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to continue joining us in future videos. Sincerely thank you, and see you again soon. From a horrific accident to the door of life and death, the near-death story of a Baylor student. Hello everyone, today we will explore a touching and surprising story about a young Baylor University student who went through a horrific accident. It seemed like it was the end, but right at the boundary between life and passing, he had an impressive near-death experience. This story is not just about loss, but also about hope, the meaning of life, and the mysterious things of the other side. Let's listen and feel. Lucas Carter, a senior at Baylor University, was the pride of his family and friends, known for his sharp intellect and outstanding ambition. Majoring in mechanical engineering, Lucas always aimed to complete every project to perfection, often staying up late to ensure the highest standards were met. His dedication to his work, from essays to group projects, made him a model student in the eyes of many. That evening, after an exhausting group presentation, Lucas drove his old Toyota Camry down the desolate road toward home. The sky was pitch black, with no stars in sight, only thick clouds and lightning that split the sky in rapid succession. The thunder rumbled, drowning out all other sounds, adding to the eerie and empty atmosphere. The rain poured down in torrents, each drop slamming against the windshield, creating streaks that blurred the view ahead, making driving even more challenging. Despite the conditions, Lucas remained focused on the road, concentrating on what lay ahead. While driving, Lucas decided to call his best friend, Elena Harper, to share the success of his presentation. He wanted to share his joy with Elena, who had always been his emotional support during stressful times. The two of them laughed and chatted, their excitement echoing through the storm as if nothing could ruin their happiness. "I'll tell you all the details when I get home," Lucas said, his voice tinged with a hint of fatigue, but the excitement of the presentation still evident. Elena, as always, listened attentively, showing genuine interest in his success. But in that moment, Lucas felt a slight unease, a nagging feeling that he couldn't shake. He glanced outside the car, seeing only the rain and the flickering headlights of cars passing by. Suddenly, from a distance, the headlights of a large truck flashed, cutting through the darkness. The truck barreled toward him at terrifying speed, its tires grinding into the slick road, showing no sign of slowing down, getting closer and closer. Lucas couldn't react in time as the truck lost control, skidding sideways and crashing head-on into his car. The impact was so forceful that Lucas's car was violently thrown off course. The sound of metal crashing against metal was deafening, as if time stopped for a moment. The windshield shattered into thousands of pieces, scattering across the air, and sharp shards of glass cut through the atmosphere like invisible blades. Lucas felt a tremendous force slam his body to one side, throwing him out of his seat, and an intense pain spread throughout his body. He tried to look out, but all he saw was a dark void, broken headlights flashing from the truck, and then everything began to fade. The sounds around him became muffled and distant, while the pain surged through him, making his eyelids flutter shut as his breathing became labored. Everything around him blurred, the thunder and rain now distant, until complete darkness swallowed him whole. When Lucas slowly opened his eyes, the pain and heaviness seemed to vanish, like a fleeting dream he could not grasp. He no longer felt the cold from shattered glass, nor did he hear the pattering rain or the distant sound of ambulance sirens. Instead, he found himself standing in the middle of a vast, endless field, where soft light bathed the entire landscape, like a gentle sunrise dispersing the darkness of the night. Everything around him shone, not with blinding light, but with a warm, peaceful glow, as though the sun had never set, only endlessly illuminated the world. The air here was refreshingly pure, carrying a fragrance so clean and unfamiliar to Lucas. It wasn't the scent of flowers or earth, but a fresh, living scent that felt intimate and full of life. His steps were light, as if no longer burdened by the weight of his body. With each movement, he felt like he was floating, his feet barely touching the ground, drifting in a space that felt both dreamlike and unanchored. The scene around him was filled with tranquility, but not complete silence. The wind gently rustled through the golden grass, producing sounds like distant whispers, hard to distinguish. These voices were unclear, but full of emotion, as if trying to convey some important message that Lucas couldn't yet understand. These sounds seemed to connect him to another world, a world he had never known, but whose rhythm and vibrations he could clearly feel in the air. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance, moving toward him. A woman dressed in a pure white cloak, surrounded by a soft light. The brilliance radiating from her was so strong that Lucas had to squint to see her clearly. Her presence exuded an unspoken authority, but also a profound gentleness, as if every step she took carried with it an aura of serenity, untouched by the burdens of life. As she drew nearer, Lucas could feel her powerful presence, a warm energy radiating from her, soothing the confusion in his heart. "Welcome, Lucas," she spoke, her voice soft and melodic, like a lullaby, gentle yet full of strength. "I am Aurora, the guide in between two worlds." Lucas looked at her, his eyes full of confusion and doubt. He felt like he had entered a strange, unexplainable dream, where nothing seemed to make sense. "Between two worlds? Where is this? Am I dreaming?" he asked, his voice betraying his bewilderment. Aurora smiled, her smile soothing away all of Lucas's anxieties and doubts. She didn't answer right away, instead quietly watching him, as if she wanted him to find the answer within himself. "No, Lucas. This is not a dream. This is a special place, lying between life and departure, where lost souls will find answers to what they have yet to understand. I am here to help you understand what brought you here, and so that you can fulfill the mission you need to complete." Lucas fell silent, trying to process what he had just heard. A sense of unfamiliarity and anxiety lingered in his heart, but Aurora's compassionate gaze made him feel a protective presence surrounding him. This was not a place of pain or loss, but a new journey he was meant to face, a journey to discover the true meaning of life and existence. He didn't understand why he was here, but the calm emanating from Aurora made him feel safe, even though this was a world he had never known. The atmosphere around him remained peaceful and serene, but Lucas knew that something profound and significant awaited him ahead. He didn't understand everything yet, but he felt that Aurora was the one who would help him find the way, no matter how long or difficult that path might be. Aurora looked at Lucas with a gaze full of understanding, as if she already knew all the questions that would arise in his mind. She stood there, gentle yet strong. The light around her seemed to naturally emanate from within. Her voice was like a cool stream, both soothing and authoritative. "Lucas, you are in a very special place. This is the boundary between life and passing, where time and space no longer hold the same meaning as before. This is not a world as you once knew it, where you could measure everything by minutes and space. Everything here has become blurry and endless." She paused for a moment, as if giving Lucas time to absorb what she had just said. Around them, a sparkling field stretched out, with faint lights that seemed to emanate from the very air, creating an atmosphere that was both mystical and peaceful. Yet, despite the serenity, Lucas sensed something strange, a feeling of waiting, as if everything was on pause, awaiting something greater to unfold. "This is where souls who are not yet ready to leave this world come to rest," Aurora continued, extending her hand to point toward the vast, endless space ahead. "But you are not here simply to wait. You have a mission to fulfill." She did not appear rushed or forceful, but rather calm and composed, as though this was something Lucas needed to know, even though he couldn't yet fully understand it. Lucas stood there, his mind spinning with questions that couldn't be answered. He looked around, trying to find something familiar, but all he saw was a brilliantly bright field, with no clear beginning or end. It felt like he was standing in an unreal space, one he couldn't define or measure. "Mission? But I'm not gone," he stammered, struggling to believe what he had just heard. It felt as if he were being pulled into a strange dream, unable to wake up. Aurora smiled, a gentle yet wise smile. She extended her hand toward the distance, where the shimmering clouds moved in an odd way. They twisted and unraveled in the space, as if an invisible force was controlling them from somewhere. The light from those clouds created mesmerizing streaks, reflecting everywhere in this hazy space. "You're not gone, true," Aurora continued, her voice gentle yet full of authority. "But leaving life behind is not always an end. Sometimes, it's an opportunity to explore something deeper, a chance to change and grow in ways you never imagined in your previous life."